Welcome to the tools segment of our concrete acid staining training course. In this module, I'll briefly go over the hand tools that you will need to have to do your concrete project with the acid staining. And as I proceed with the photos of each of the tools, I'll go into a little bit more detail about them, and you'll be able to see too the brands, the sizes, and the makes on that side of the video here. But first of all is in the floor prepping, the main tools that you'll need for preparing your floor is a mop bucket and a mop, and this will be to clean the concrete, which is obvious. If there are other things like other heavy contaminants that leave blemishes that are on top of the concrete, like sheetrock mud or construction adhesive, plumber's glue, that sort of thing, then you'll need a floor scraper to take those things off. You can use a margin trowel if it's marginal, and smaller areas, corners for example, the margin trowels are great for that. We'll show that tool, what that looks like, the floor scraper, what that looks like. If it is that you've got overspray from paint, then there's going to be a little bit more of a floor preparation process there, where you're going to need some bag of cotton rags, depending on the extent of the overspray, and hot water that you're going to need to take and rub that stuff out. Just keep in mind that the acid stain is a semi-transparent colorant, and any flaws, any variations, any discolorations will all show and reflect through whatever acid stain color you decide to use. It'll reflect through. So think of it in terms of a piece of wood. A piece of wood furniture that has a wood grain in it, no matter what the stain is on that piece of wood, it reflects the detail of the grain of wood that's in that piece of furniture. And so the same is true of concrete. It's got its variations of color shade, and any contaminants that are in it will also be reflected through the acid stain. So keep that in mind. Once your floor is prepped and you'll be going into the acid staining itself, you'll need a couple of pump sprayers. One if it's a smaller project and you're doing this yourself, and or multiple pump sprayers if it is that you want to get other people involved, if it's pretty sizable, and especially if you want to use multiple colors. Thing to make noteworthy is the pump sprayer is that you'll want to make sure that it is a solvent resistant O-ring and seal gasket type of a pump sprayer. Needs to be pretty industrially tough. Otherwise, this can literally blow up in your face. We'll go into more detail about that when we show the pump sprayers and how they're used and how you apply the acid stain. Once your acid stain is applied, then you will be waiting for that to dry over 24 hours, and then you'll be neutralizing this with water and with baking soda or any other kind of a neutralizing agent that you may want to use to try to neutralize the hydrochloric acid. We typically use just baking soda because it's cheap. You can use vinegar as well. That will neutralize it. And there's a few other products out there too, like TSP, that will work as well for neutralizing. But if you want to just keep it simple, just use baking soda. The neutralization process is probably the most intense part of your acid staining project, because you got to get all that acid stain residue that's left on the surface out and off the surface, so that you don't have any footprints that are left behind, or marks, or anything that's going to show more variation in your concrete just accidentally because of any residue that's left behind. So we'll go into more detail as to the neutralizing side of things. Once it's all neutralized, the other tools that you'll need is to apply your epoxy coatings. First is the epoxy primer. These are just typical paint roller products. You're looking at a paint roller frame of either a 9-inch or an 18-inch. We prefer and recommend an 18-inch just to make better time and to try to reduce the amount of stop and start marks by having a 9-inch roller. You'll need the roller covers, which we recommend is a 3/8 inch nap that's also got to be core solvent resistant so that you don't have that break down when you're applying the epoxy. The poles, obviously, so that you can attach that to your roller frame. And brushes, 3-inch and 4-inch brushes. Just use something inexpensive but yet still pretty tough and durable. We'll show you the types of brushes that we recommend for cutting in edges as you go. So that pretty much covers everything in way of tools for applying the acid stain, from the floor prep to applying the epoxy and the final coat of epoxy and or urethane, depending on which gloss coat you decide to use. So we'll show all these pictures of these tools in the following moments here in this video. And then I'll just share with you my closing remarks afterwards, and we'll see you there. This is a good overview of all the hand tools and power tools that will be associated with your acid staining project. We'll go into each of these tools in detail in the foregoing footage. This is a handy tool to have for stuff that you need to get in corners or in tough places. A putty knife about 3 inches wide. This is a 6-inch by 1.5-inch margin trowel to get into tight corners and other areas. This is your floor scraper, which will be for taking off most of the bulk stuff that may be on your concrete. A broom to sweep up the residue, and of course a shovel to go along with it. Pick that stuff up and get it out of your way so you can see what you're doing. This is shop vac. This is a little bit more of a close-up here to the shop vac as to the size that we like to use. It really gets the job done quickly. This is your mixing device. This is just a little cordless 24-volt mixer with a small egg beater mixer on the end there for mixing up your epoxies. 5-gallon mop bucket, the mop itself for cleaning. If you have to do any masking, this is a great tool to have so that you can get things done quickly and neatly. This is a 9-inch roller frame for putting down the coatings, the clear coat, epoxy, or urethane. This is an 18-inch roller frame. If you want to get it to cover a lot quicker, this is a lot nicer system. And of course the pole to attach to it. Putting down the acid stains, you're going to want to wear a respirator. These are carbon-filled respirators to help keep out the VOC emissions. This is a typical funnel, so you can kind of help control putting your acid into the pump sprayer, which is next. You want to be sure that this pump sprayer has the solvent resistant O-rings and gaskets in it. Otherwise the acids will dissolve other typical pump sprayers and it will blow back up through the pump sprayer pressure system. This is a good snapshot of all the various supplies that you'll need to have ready to go prior to your acid staining project. Have these all collected and in place, and you'll be prepared as you need to be. If you don't have the convenience of a gravel bed or a dirt patch area where you can mix and clean out all of the acid products, then you'll want to use a tarp or a ground cloth so that you can protect and safeguard your landscaping. If you need to do some masking around door jambs, casings, thresholds, baseboards, this is a good product to use. We recommend. It's got good adhesion, it's got good resistance to the acids penetrating through it, and is got good longevity as well. If you have finished walls and painted sheetrock, you're going to want to use the frog tape. Do not use the Scotch Contractor's grade tape. It'll pull the paint off in some areas. You're safer with this, and it still has the strength to hold up any masking that you may be using, or Visqueen to protect your walls. It's also handy to have some rags next to you in case you have some spills or splatter. It's always good to have these as a backup. And the masking paper, this green premium 12-inch, is sufficient. It's heavy enough that the overspray from the acids won't penetrate it through into the wall or the baseboards. This is a good paper for going around the baseboards and any door jambs or casings or thresholds. And if you need to do the masking and need some knee pads, these Husky knee pads are good and very inexpensive that you can get at most hardware stores. This is a 2.5 quart measuring cup that you'll be using to measure out your water when you mix with your water-based epoxy or urethane. This is the 2-gallon bucket that we prefer mixing the two components, whether it be the urethane or the epoxy, in together. Rubber gloves are always handy to have just to keep your hands clean. These are the 9-inch by 3/8 inch nap roller covers. These are rare that you'll use these, but they're handy to have if you have tight little corners like closets and such, and under stairwells. And then this will be what you'll use mostly. It's the 18-inch by 3/8 inch nap roller cover. You want to use this because you want to try to eliminate as many stop and start marks as you possibly can, and of course to cover the surface area quickly. These are your 3-inch and 4-inch cut-in brushes to do all of your edges. So that concludes the tool module of our acid staining concrete course, and that covers all of the tools that you will need to accumulate before your project begins. And you will have so much to look forward to once this is all put together and you are ready after our next module and segment that covers the materials. Once you've got all that stuff together with your tools, this will be exciting to anticipate actually putting this product down and making it come alive with some color. So thanks for joining me in this module, and I'll look forward to seeing you here again shortly as we go into the materials side of the acid staining concrete training course.